What's good? We're gonna be short tonight. We're gonna be short. Won't be that long. It won't be that long. I won't be that long. But let's jump into it. What's up, y'all? Let's jump into it. I want to read something to you all. What's up, Neat? I want to read something to you all. What's up, Mika? What's up, Camby? I want to read something, and somebody sent it to me. But it was the Emmett Till's his I think it's his great uncle or the guy that was in the house. So let's read this. And this is on PBS. Okay, it says the murder of Emmett Till article, and it says the brave testimony. Now, now on the Instagram page, I have a scripture, Exodus 34:7. Keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty. Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third and to the fourth generation. So we see that the sins of the father go to the fourth generation. Now I want you to backtrack from this generation and go back 4 previous generations. And what time period are we in? Thank you, Jahan, for the super sticker. I'm sorry I came on late, y'all. What's up, Rena Bina? Anthem Fox, King Tabernacle, Star of Baby. What's up, y'all? Everybody on Instagram. I really want to get into it because I'm not going to be on here all night. Brave testimony. Moses Wright's testimony in the trial of his great nephew's accused killers will go down in history as one of the bravest moments of the civil rights movement. Now, keep in mind, this is after this man let these people come into the house and take this boy out. Read the headline again. Brave testimony. Moses Wright's, keyword Moses. Moses was the same name given to Harriet Tubman, and also Harriet Tubman's brother was named Moses. Ironically, he disappears in the story but ends up coming back later. Anyway, so we got Moses with Harriet Tubman and we got Moses Wright. Moses Wright's testimony in the trial of his great nephew's accused killers will go down in history as one of the bravest moments of the civil rights movement. So the bravest moments is this guy testifying in court, not actually stopping these guys from taking his nephew's life. What's up, Titty Ball? What's up, JHNBTLR? Okay, Moses and his wife Elizabeth lived in a 3-room home surrounded by trees on a lonely stretch of road near Money, a whistle-stop town in the cotton-growing Mississippi Delta. Wright, called preacher, was a minister as well as a sharecropper. So this man knew the Lord. In the summer of 1955, Wright played host to his 2 teenage nephews from Chicago. 16-year-old Wheeler Parker, and 14-year-old Emmett Till. Elizabeth wrote to his mother, Mammy Till Bradley, that Emmett was helpful around the house. August 28th, 1 week after Emmett arrived, was a day that Wright family would never forget. At about 2:30 a.m., two white men, Roy Bryant and his half-brother, J.W. Millam, arrived at the Wright home, pounding on the door with a pistol. They declared they were looking for the boy that did the talking. Now, I know this sharecropper reverend had a gun in that house. Back then, people had guns. Now, they're at the door knocking with a pistol. So clearly, if they got a pistol, it's not going to be good. So why would this man open this door if he had the shotgun, if he had old Bessie in the back room? I'll tell you why. Because he was a coward. But keep in mind, they said that he was brave. Now remember, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, and upon the children's children, unto the third and to the fourth generation. So the cowardice that we see today goes back at least 4 generations. Hold on one second. Let me hold on. Sorry, you on YouTube. Okay, so Instagram should be working better now. Instagram should be working better. I got on my Wi-Fi. Moses pleaded with the men to leave Emmett alone. He's only 14. He's from up north. Why not give the boy a whipping and leave it at that? Elizabeth Wright offered money to the intruders, but they ordered her to go back to bed. Moses pleaded with the men to leave Emmett alone. He's only 14. He's from up north. Why not give the boy a whipping and leave it at that? Elizabeth Wright offered money to the intruders, but they ordered her to go back to bed. Now, again, does this sound brave? Does this sound brave? I'm going to just say this. If someone can come into your house and take your child away, all bets are off. What are we holding on to? If somebody can come into your house and take your child out, then what are we holding on to? It's over. It's over. That is an act of war. But in an act of war, the black man was trying to plead. He even said, give him a whooping. But he's a hero. Moses led the men through his home with flashlights until they found Emmett in bed sleeping. The irony of Moses leading the children out of Israel, just to fast forward all these years later, and Moses is leading the white man to the child. Matter of fact, the house was black and dark, so there was an element of surprise. Moses led the man through his home with flashlights until they found Emmett in bed sleeping. They woke him up and told him to get dressed. Milam, at 6 foot 2 inches, 235 pounds, turned to Moses and threatened him. How old are you, preacher? Wright said that he was 64. If you make any trouble, you'll never live to be 65. Now, these are two men in your house taking your nephew away, and they're threatening you on top of that. And you all want me to believe that this is bravery. The Emmett Till story is the worst indictment on the black man ever, because it really shows and highlights the true nature of the black man. Now, why do I say that? I say that because this story of Emmett Till never gets told from this perspective. It always gets told from the perspective of his mother, which means nobody even thought enough of the black man to even question why this happened. No one even had enough respect for the black man to say, why did he let? So that means that the consensus was that the black man was so weak that someone can come into his house and take his child. Right, Brando. And told his wife to go back to sleep. So now they're in your house telling you what to do and disrespecting your wife and taking your child. And you mean to tell me none of that made you want to go to war? None of that made you want to go to war. What type of man gets buck broken on a plantation and doesn't start a war? Let me ask Instagram. Instagram, what type of man is getting buck broken on a plantation and that doesn't start a war? Again, these stories that they want black folks to be proud of are really a sweeping indictment on the black man. I'm sorry. These men are in his house and they're telling him what he's going to do and what his wife is going to do. Thank you, Ian Mayor, for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Oh, it's 5 a.m. It's good. You must be across the water. Are you in England? I forgot. Right, Keith. What was enough for him to say no more? I want y'all to picture this. What kind of man at 64? So that means you don't live life. You ain't like you really got, I mean, you 64 years old. I mean, it's time to, so not it's time to go, but you know, you ain't 14, you ain't 20, you 64. They come to your house with a gun. You open the door, you let them in. They tell your wife to go back to bed. You plead and beg with them to give them a whooping. They threaten you. They have you get a flashlight, walk through the house, get that boy out of bed and get him dressed so they can go kill him and torture him. The Emmett Till story is a sweeping indictment on black men. Slavery is a sweeping indictment on black men. Moses said that as they made their way to Millen's pickup truck, he heard one of the men ask someone waiting in the vehicle whether Emmett was the right one. When the person responded yes, they drove off. Local newspapers reported that a third person was sought in the abduction, but no one else was ever charged in the case. The Wrights got word to Emmett's mother in Chicago that her son was missing. Now imagine you got to call up his mama and tell his mother that you let two men come in the house and take him. Now, if it was my mother, it's going to be a problem. Like my mom going to have a whole, like it's going to be a problem if it's my mother. If I'm missing, you come up, it's going to be a huge problem. Cause she bringing the whole hood. For real. The Wrights got word to Emmett's mother in Chicago that her son was missing. The family and a local sheriff attempted to look for him by searching along riverbanks and under bridges, where Black folks always look when something like this happens, as Moses will recall. So in other words, they're looking for him to be dead. So that means he already knew he was going to be killed. Because we know that riverbanks and under bridges, you know you're going to be dead. Come on. Emmett Till's body was found in the Tallahatchie River, a heavy gin fan tied around his neck with barbed wire. Roy Bryant and Jay Millam were arrested and brought to trial. Now, I want you to look at him, and you can already see he's defeated as a man. I don't know if y'all can see it, but he's defeated. Y'all can look. He's defeated. He don't have any conviction. That's a defeated look. They say that the eyes are the windows to the soul. He looks defeated. And again, how could you not be defeated? In your moment to be courageous, in your moment to prove that God was real, because you preach it in church every Sunday, in the moment for you to prove that God was real, you decided to be a coward. You didn't put your faith and trust in God. Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I should fear no evil. You were a coward. Sensing danger, Moses put his wife Elizabeth on a train to Chicago. She wrote him begging him not to testify. Most local whites didn't think he'd show up. When the trial began, Moses defied all odds and testified. Now, why do you think these white folks didn't believe he was going to show up? Didn't I just tell you that they thought the black man was a coward? Anytime a man comes to your house and has the audacity to walk in and make demands, he don't respect you. Them two white men should have got their head split to the white meat. Oh, Ian Mayor is in Denmark. Okay. That's what's up. Ian Mayor said, "Give me liberty or give me death." That's one of the most powerful quotes ever uttered. And guess who didn't say it? The black man didn't say that. White man said that. Give me liberty or give me death. So now the pastor is about to testify. Now he wants to be brave after the fact. The moment of bravery came when it was in your house. The moment of bravery came when they were in your house, not when the NAACP and all them is down there. Because you know at this time, NAACP and black folks down there supporting him. So now you want to be brave with these folks supporting you. It's a network of people helping you now. Now you want to be brave. I rebuke this PBS article. I rebuke it. When he stood up in court, when he stood up in open court and pointed his withered finger at Milam and Bryant, his bravery surpassed his 5'3" height. Well, I always grew up thinking that the short guys had a Napoleon complex. Now, normally the short men have a Napoleon complex. They made it a point to tell you earlier that the guy was 6'2", so you can feel sorry for the man being 5'3". What I know is you might be 5'3", but that shotgun gonna make you 7 feet. That shotgun gonna make you a giant, trust me. They would have left out there looking like Tony Starks with a hole in their chest. I'm sorry. With the simple words, "thar he," Moses Wright went down in history. You mean to tell me that he let these men come in his house, disrespect his wife, disrespect him, take the child out, torture and kill the child, and all he had to say was "right there" or "there he" to be a hero? Do you see how low the black man is? Do you see how low they had the black man? I ain't black, I'm free. Thar he made him a hero. This boy was tortured and killed, and thar he made him a hero. And he only did it because the NAACP, all the folks were down there. It may have been the first time when a black man stood in open court in the South and accused a white man of a crime and lived. You mean to tell me the first time this happened was in 1955? Slavery ended in 1865? So you mean to tell me it took y'all 90 years to accuse somebody that was beating y'all upside y'all head and lynching y'all and killing y'all? And y'all don't think the black man is weak? Let me see who wrote it. I guess I'll see it in the end who wrote it. Somebody said it's probably Black Girl Magic that wrote. Let me see. I don't know who wrote it. It's a good question. That's strange. Anyway, I won't go into the gruesome torture of Emmett Till, but if the story is true, it's very brutal and tragic. But you know, we got to take all these stories with a grain of salt, because it's hard for me to believe that the black man was this weak. But if I look in the present day, it's not very hard at all. While on the stand, Moses said he could feel the blood boil. In the hundreds of white spectators. After the trial, Moses fled to join his wife in Chicago, leaving behind his 1941 Ford and his cotton blooming in the fields. This man left his car. This man left his car, his home and his land and his resources. He owned cotton fields. Am I tripping? Yeah, you're right. It is hard to tell what happened. I think they go by what happened based on what the white guy said. But it is hard to tell. But still, this man, after he testified, fled to Chicago and left everything. Do you understand how insane that is? You understand? Moses returned in November to testify at the grand jury hearing for Milam and Brian's kidnapping case. When the grand jury refused to return an indictment, Moses Wright left for Chicago, never again returned. He never again returned to Mississippi. That is the Emmett Till story. The Emmett Till story should not be about Emmett Till. The Emmett Till story should be about what happened when the black man and the white man came face to face. The black man was on his property, on his land, in his house. And the white man was in there, and they came face to face. Starved Baby said, what happened to his land? What do you all think happened to his land? What do you all think happened to that man's land? Yeah, so that's the Emmett Till story. I just wanted to read it. And I go back to my sentiments that I said earlier, is that all throughout history, we see the black man being very cowardly, even to the point where the white people just knew he wasn't going to show up to court. They already knew the cowardly nature of the black man. This man is a preacher. He owns land. He owns cotton. He has a truck. He has a house. It's funny to me that these folks were so racist, but they never bothered his stuff. Think about that. These folks were so racist. Y'all told me they burned down Black Wall Street. They burned down Rosewood. But this black man had house, land, cotton fields, and a car. He had a car in 1955. And he had a church. He was a prominent man in the community, and white folks didn't bother him. I find that kind of strange. Because y'all tell me if black folks have something, white folks come in and take it. That wasn't the case in Mississippi, in racist Mississippi in 1955. He was in Mississippi balling out of control, and the white folks left him alone. Make it make sense. Jojo Mack said, this sounds ridiculous. Polish Guy 13 says, be bold as a lion, as we are called to be by God. Amen. Star Baby said, it smells funny, Blanche. I agree. I agree. Yes, Morgus. His name is the same as Harriet's. Is this story real? We got to question all of this stuff because the stuff to me sounds For them to make this man a hero, for this man saying thou he, I can't, no, I can't. I got another article I want to read. Jojo Max says that this just doesn't make sense. Teal's father was a hellfighter who was buried in Italy. None of it makes sense. Well, again, if you really dig into these stories, none of them really make any sense. They just don't. But let me read this story of a lawyer, and it's called Confessions of a Public Defender. This is on the American Renaissance website, posted on May 9th, 2014. Anybody have any questions? Exodus 34:7. Keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children unto the third and to the fourth generation. So what we see now with black men, again, goes back at least 4 generations. So now you have a good indication of what the men were acting like in previous generations, because you can see it today, because that iniquity has fallen on this generation. Confessions of a Public Pretender. Defender. Editor's note. This is just one of 13 essays in our newly released collection of firsthand reports about the reality of race. I'm going to tell you all right now, this guy, you're going to think he's racist, but this guy is a liberal. And I want you to listen to him. I am a public defender in a large southern metropolitan area. Fewer than 10% of the people in this area I serve are Black, but over 90% of my clients are Black. The remaining 10% are mainly Hispanics, but they are a few whites. I have no explanation for why this is, but crime has racial patterns. Hispanics usually commit 2 kinds of crimes: sexual assault on children and driving under the influence. Blacks commit many violent crimes, but very few sex crimes. We know that's a lie. The handful of whites I see commit all kinds of crimes. In my many years as a public defender, I've represented only 3 Asians and 1 was half Black. As a young lawyer, I believe that Blacks are law-abiding, intelligent, family-oriented people, but are so poor they must turn to crime to survive. Actual Black behavior was a shock to me. Now keep in mind, this is a white liberal. Jambalaya Talk says, another thing too, Blanche, that promise of visiting the children of the Father with this curse is still in effect for those who refuse to yield to the Messiah. Amen. I got my cousin on here. What's up? What's up, cousin? As a young lawyer, I believe that Blacks are law-abiding, intelligent, family-oriented people, but are so poor they must turn to crime to survive. Actual Black behavior was a shock to me. The media invariably sugarcoats Black behavior. I said this before, you can't find any news outlets that portray Black people in a negative way. If Black folks are out there protesting and rioting, stealing flat screens and bundles, the media is going to say they're fighting injustice. The media does not show Black people in any kind of negative light. None. Even the news reports of the very crimes I dealt with in court were slanted. Television news intentionally leaves out unflattering facts about the accused and sometimes omits names that are obviously Black. All this rocked my liberal, tolerant beliefs, but it took me years to set aside my illusions and accept the reality of what I see every day. I have now served thousands of Blacks and their families, protecting their rights and defending them in court. What follow are my observations. So keep in mind that this guy was serving the Black community for years. And what he's talking about is not race. What he's about to articulate is Black culture. Not about race. This is about culture. Yes, thank you, Baby for Life. If y'all see me wearing these shirts, y'all can go to my what's it called? Teespring. HHM on Teespring. HHM Incorporated on Teespring. You see any kind of shirts like this that I do, they're all on Teespring. But if you want to get the I Ain't Black, I'm Free shirt, that's at HHM Forever, number 4 ever, EVER.com. But yeah, it's a liberal talking. Let me get to my paragraph. Although Blacks are only a small percentage of our community, the courthouse is filled with them. The halls and gallery benches are overflowing with Black defendants, families, and crime victims. Most whites with business in court arrive quietly, dressed appropriately, and keep their heads down. They get in and get out, if they can, as fast as they can. For Blacks, the courthouse is like a carnival. They all seem to know each other, hundreds and hundreds each day, gossiping, laughing loudly, waving, and crowding the halls. Now, this is a white liberal now. This is a white liberal speaking from observation. When I am appointed to represent a client, I introduce myself and explain that I am his lawyer. I explain the court process and my role in it, and I ask the client some basic questions about himself. At this stage, I can tell with great accuracy how people will react. Hispanics are extremely polite and differential. An Hispanic will never call me by my first name and will answer my questions directly and with appropriate respect for my position. Whites are similarly respectful. A Black man will never call me Mr. Smith. I am always Mike. It's not unusual for a 19-year-old Black to refer to me as dog. A Black may mumble complaints about everything I say and roll his eyes when I politely interrupt so I can continue with my explanation. Also, everything I say to Blacks must be at about the 3rd grade level. If I slip and use adult language, they get very angry because they think I am flaunting my superiority. Now imagine you have a white lawyer and you want this white lawyer to humble themselves to the point where they make you feel comfortable about what they're saying to you about you being involved in the criminal activity. Brando said, I've read this before. Somebody said it sounds like school hallways. I'm going to read that last sentence again, the last two. Also, everything I say to blacks must be at about the third grade level. If I slip and say and use adult language, they get very angry because they think I'm flaunting my superiority. At the early stages of the case, I explain the process to my clients. I often do not yet have the information in the police reports. Blacks are unable to understand that I do not yet have answers to all of their questions, but that I will by a certain date. They live in the here and now and are unable to await for anything. Usually, by the second meeting with the client, I have most of the police reports and understand the case. Unlike people of other races, blacks never see their lawyer as someone who is there to help them. I am a part of the system against which they are waging war. They often explode with anger at me and are quick to blame me for anything that goes wrong in their case. Black men often try to trip me up and challenge my knowledge of the law or the facts of the case. Now, you all know that black people think they know everything. So I'm going to read this again. Black men often try to trip me up and challenge my knowledge of the law or the facts of the case. And you know that's true. Now, hold up. Now, we all know what this guy is saying is true. We all know that this guy is telling the absolute truth about what he's experienced. Now, keep in mind, this is a subculture of black culture. This is the criminal aspect of black culture. But the criminal aspect of it is still surrounded and embraced by black culture. You're going to see this later. Because the folks around these criminals are the folks in black culture. So it ain't just a subculture in the courtroom. It's the subculture along with the overall culture. Black men often try to trip me up and challenge my knowledge of the law or the facts of the case. I appreciate sincere questions about the elements of the offense or the sentencing guidelines, but blacks ask questions to test me. Unfortunately, they are almost always wrong in their reading or understanding of the law, and this can cause friction. Now, imagine a lawyer that went to school and studied law, and these people coming off the streets questioning this. The pride, I told y'all it's pride. I told y'all it is only pride makes you believe that you know more than somebody that went to school and not just studied it, but also as a practicing lawyer. That means they have experience. And you woke up out of bed, sleep in your eye, hangover, smoked, high, coming to court questioning this man. The audacity. Unfortunately, they are almost always wrong in their reading or understanding of the law, and this can cause friction. I may repeatedly explain the law and provide copies of the statute showing, for example, why my client must serve 6 years if convicted, but he continues to believe that a handwritten note from his cellie is controlling the law. Y'all know this is all true. Y'all know it's true. I may repeatedly explain the law and provide copies of the statute showing, for example, why my client must serve 6 years if convicted, but he continues to believe that a handwritten note from his cellie is controlling the law. Goodness. The risk of trial. King Tabernacle says, in the black family, you can go to school for it and your family will still think they know more than you do about it. He is 1,000% correct. 1,000% correct. The Constitution allows a defendant to make three crucial decisions in his case. He decides whether to plead guilty or not guilty. He decides whether to have a bench trial or jury trial. He decides whether he will testify or whether he will remain silent. A client who insists on testifying is almost always making a terrible mistake, but I cannot stop him. Most Black defendants are unable to speak English well. They cannot conjugate verbs. They have a poor grasp of verb tenses. They have a limited vocabulary. They cannot speak without swearing. They often become hostile on the stand. Many, when they testify, show a complete lack of empathy and are unable to conceal a morality based on the satisfaction of immediate base needs. This is a disaster, especially in a jury trial. Most jurors are white and are appalled by the demeanor of uneducated criminal Blacks. I know somebody, I ain't even gonna say it. But what's sad is that you all know this is true. Now, keep in mind, this is a white liberal who was an advocate for Black people. This is the person that would vote for Joe Biden. He would have a Black Lives Matter T-shirt on. He loves Black people. He loves Black people. And this white liberal said, enough's enough. Enough's enough. This is why Joe Biden in that meeting with the Black leaders said, to hell with y'all. Because what happens is the white liberals' patience is thin behind closed doors. Like white liberals are very patient in public. They'll sit down, they'll bow to you, they'll let you cuss them out, beat them up, spit on them, and they'll still say they just need help. But the white liberal behind closed doors is a savage. Prosecutors are delighted when a Black defendant takes the stand. It is like shooting fish in a barrel. However, the defense usually gets to cross-examine the Black victim, who is likely to make just as bad as an impression on the stand as a defendant. This is an invaluable gift to the defense because jurors may not convict a defendant even if they feel he is guilty if they dislike the victim even more than they dislike the defendant. So what he's saying is that Black people in court are screwed whether they victims or defendants. They screwed. And this is all based on Black culture. This is all based on Black culture. Most criminal cases do not go to trial. Often the evidence against the accused is overwhelming, and the chances of conviction are high. The defendant is better off with a plea bargain, pleading guilty as a lesser charge and getting a lighter sentence. The decision to plead to a lesser charge turns on the strength of the evidence. When Blacks ask the ultimate question, will we win at trial? I tell them I cannot know, but I then describe the strengths and weaknesses of our case. The weaknesses are usually obvious. There are 5 eyewitnesses against you, or you made a confession to both the detective and your grandmother. Now, we all know this is true. We all know that Black folks commit crimes out in the open. No discretion. We know this. He telling them, listen, man, I want to go to trial. He's like, listen, man, there's 5 eyewitnesses that saw you, put you at the scene. I don't care. You confess to the police that you did it. I don't care. They found you in possession of a pink cell phone with a case that has rhinestones spelling the name of the victim of the robbery. There is a video of the murderer wearing the same shirt you were wearing when you were arrested, which has the words "in the house" on the back. Not to mention you have the same R.I.P. Pookie 7412 tattoo on your neck as the man in the video, and etc. He's giving you all these cases. Now, and this is what folks don't tell you, that when black folks go to trial and go to court, this is what the lawyer got to deal with. So what they're telling you is the system. It's not the system. Black folks go to trial like this. How can I avoid jail time? Or how can I get a limited amount of time even though I'm guilty? This is why most black people plea in court. They always plea because they're guilty. They're not pleading because they're innocent. Now listen, Sergeant Vasquez. I wish it was satire. It ain't. I listen. I wish it was satire, but this is too detailed. Because I know. I grew up around this. I know. Trust, believe me, I know. If you tell a black man that the evidence is very harmful to his case, he will blame you. You ain't working for me. It's like you working for the state. Every public defender hears this. The more you try to explain the evidence to a black man, the angrier he gets. It is my firm belief many blacks are unable to discuss the evidence against them rationally because they cannot view things from a perspective of others. They simply cannot understand how the facts in the case will appear to a jury. Black folks struggle with context. We know this. Black people struggle with context. Everything is emotional. This inability to see things from someone else's perspective helps explain why there are so many black criminals that do not understand the pain they are inflicting on others. One of my robbery clients is a good example. He and two co-defendants walked into a small store run by 2 young women. All 3 men were wearing masks. They drew handguns and ordered the women in the back room. One of the men beat a girl with his gun. The second man stood over the second girl while the third man emptied the cash register. All this was on video. My client was the one who beat the girl. When he asked me, what are our chances at trial? I said, not so good. He immediately got angry, raised his voice, and accused me of working with the prosecution. I asked him how he thought a jury would react to the video. They don't care, he said. I told him the jury would probably feel deeply sympathetic towards these 2 women and would be angry at him because how he treated them. I asked him whether he felt bad for the women and he had beaten and terrorized. He told me what I suspected, what too many blacks say about the suffering of others. What do I care? She ain't me. She ain't kin. Don't even know her. Now, we know this because when we bring up certain crimes that black folks have committed, the first thing black people say is, but white folks. We know this. We know it. Black people can do some of the most heinous stuff, and the response will be, but white people. So we already know that the empathy for victims in black criminal cases is very rare because black folks feel justified because they're in racist America. Next section called No Fathers. As a public defender, I have learned many things about people. One is that defendants do not have fathers. If a black even knows the name of his father, he knows of him only as a shadowy person with whom he has no ties. When a client is, and keep in mind, he's talking about criminals. He's not talking about all Black people. He's talking about criminals. But I'm arguing that these criminals still are tied to Black culture. So their lack of accountability is a trait of Black culture. This single parent household with the mothers and the fathers being gone is Black culture. If a when a client is sentenced, I often beg for mercy on the grounds that the defendant did not have a father and never had a chance in life. I have often tracked down a man's father in jail and have brought him to the sentencing hearing to testify that he never knew his son and never lifted a finger to help him. Often, this is the first time my client has ever met his father. These meetings are utterly unemotional. Many Black defendants don't even have mothers who care about them. Many are raised by grandmothers after the state removes the children from an incompetent teenage mother. Many of these mothers and grandmothers are mentally unstable and are completely disconnected from the reality that they face in court and in life. A 47-year-old grandmother will deny that her grandson has gang ties, even though his forehead is tattooed with a gang sign or slogan. When I point this out in as a kind of an understanding way as I can, she screams at me. When Black women start screaming, they invoke the name of Jesus and shout and swear words in the same breath. We know this is true. We know it's true. Black women have great faith in God, but they have a twisted understanding of his role. They do not pray for strength or courage. They pray for results, the satisfaction of immediate needs. One of my clients was a Black woman who would pray in a circle with her accomplices for God's protection from the police before they would set out to commit a robbery. You all know this is true. Read it again. Black women have great faith in God. There is a statistical fact that Black women go to church and pray more than any other demographic. Black women have great faith in God, but they have a twisted understanding of his role. They do not pray for strength and courage. They pray for results, the satisfaction of immediate needs. One of my clients was a Black woman who would pray in a circle with her accomplices for God's protection from the police before they would set out to commit a robbery. Hold on a second. Thank you, Vintage Goods 1551 Willie. I'm almost done, y'all. This article. The mothers and grandmothers pray in the hallways, not for justice, but for acquittal. When I explained that the evidence that their beloved child murdered the shopkeeper is overwhelming and that he should accept the very fair plea bargain I have negotiated, they will tell me that he is going to trial and will ride with the Lord. They tell me they speak to God every day, and he assures them that the young man will be acquitted. Y'all know this is true. You all know what this man is saying is true. You know it's true. This is Black culture. Now we're getting to Black culture specifically. Talking about the fathers being absent, talking about the mothers and grandmothers. Now we get into Black culture. Because these folks ain't necessarily criminals. The mothers and grandmothers do not seem to be able to imagine and understand the consequences of going to trial and losing. Some, and this is a shocking reality it took me a long time to grasp, don't really care what happens to the client, but want to make it look as though they care. This means pounding their chest in righteous indignation and insisting on going to trial despite terrible evidence. They refuse to listen to one person, their lawyer, who has the knowledge to make the best recommendation. These people soon lose interest in the case and stop showing up after about the third or fourth court date. It is then easier for me to convince the client to act in his own best interest and accept the plea agreement. Y'all know it's true. Y'all know it's true. Deuteronomy 24:16. The father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. So this is God's beautiful way of letting you all know that even though you were born to a trifling father, you are still going to be held accountable for what you do. You don't get a pass because your father was absent or degenerate. You are still responsible for your life. Part of the problem is the underclass black women begin having babies at 15. They continue to have babies with different black men until they have had 5 or 6. These women do not go to school. They do not work. They are not ashamed to live on public money. They plan their entire lives around an expectation that they will always get free money and never have to work. I do not see this among whites, Hispanics, or any other people. The black men who become my clients also do not work. I think it might have been buffering on IG. I'll read it again. Part of the problem is the underclass black women begin having babies at the age 15. They continue to have babies with different black men until they have had 5 or 6. These women do not go to school, do not work. They're not ashamed to live on public money. They plan their entire lives around the expectation that they will always get free money and never have to work. I do not see this among whites, Hispanics, or any other people. The black men who become my clients also do not work. They get Social Security disability payments for mental defects or for a vague and invisible physical ailment. They do not, y'all know this is true. They do not pay for anything, not for housing. Grandma lives on welfare and he lives with her. Not for food. Grandma and the baby mama share with him, and not for child support. When I learned that my 19-year-old defendant does not work or go to school, I ask, what do you do all day? He smiles, just chill. These men live in a culture with no expectations, no demands, and no shame. Now go back to the Emmett Till case, and the white people were shocked that the uncle, Moses Wright, showed up. They were shocked. Forget the fact he didn't use that shotgun when they came to the house. They were shocked. They thought so low of black men that they said, we can go into the black man's home, disrespect him and his wife, take his child, torture his child and kill his child, and he won't even show up to trial. These men live in a culture with no expectations, no demands, and no shame. This is how Tariq Nasheed can say that he's a victim. This is how you get grown black men saying that they're victims. Because the culture says you don't have any expectations, you don't have any demands, you don't have any shame. If you tell a black to dress properly for trial and don't give specific instructions, he will arrive in a wildly inappropriate clothes. I represent a woman who was on trial for drugs. She wore a baseball cap with a marijuana leaf embroidered on it. I represented a man who wore a shirt that read, rules are for suckers. To his probation hearing, Our office provides suits, shirts, ties, and dresses for clients to wear for jury trials. Often it takes a whole team of lawyers to persuade a black to wear a shirt and tie instead of gang colors. From time to time, the media report that although blacks are 12% of the population, they are 40% of the prison population. This is supposed to be an outrage that results from an unfair treatment by the criminal justice system. What the media only hints at is another staggering reality: recidivism. Black men are arrested and convicted over and over. It is typical for black men to have 5 felony convictions before the age of 30. This kind of record is rare among whites and Hispanics, and probably even rare among Asians. At one time, our office looking for a model that defends our philosophy. Oh, I'm sorry. At one time, our office was looking for a model that defined our philosophy. Someone joked that it should be, doesn't everyone deserve an 11th chance? I am a liberal. I believe that those of us who are able to produce abundance have a moral duty to provide basic food, shelter, and medical care for those who cannot care for themselves. I believe we have this duty even to those who can care for themselves but don't. This worldview requires compassion and willingness to act on it. My experience has taught me that we live in a nation in which a jury is more likely to convict a black defendant who has committed a crime against a white. Even the dullest of blacks know this. There would be a lot more black on white crime if this were not the case. However, my experience has also taught me that blacks are different by almost any measure from all other people. They cannot reason well. They cannot communicate as well. They cannot control their impulses as well. They are a threat to all who cross their paths, black and non-black alike. I do not know the solution of this problem. I do know that it is wrong to deceive the public. Whatsoever solution we seek should be based on truth rather than what we would prefer was the truth. As for myself, I will continue to do my duty to protect the rights of all who need me. So I thought this article was good because it highlighted black culture. And what stands out to me in this article is the lack of accountability when it comes to black culture. Because black culture says because black people are in America, they should not be held accountable like everyone else. They should be graded and judged on a curve or a slant because of slavery. Now, somebody mentioned it was satire. It could be. I think it's true because what this guy highlighted was black culture. But listen, you all, that's all I have for tonight. I thank you all for tuning in. I love you all. Deuteronomy 24:16 says, again, the father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sin. So what God is saying is that you being born into a bad situation does not give you an excuse to sin. God expects you to still not sin, even though you were born in the worst conditions. God still expects you to be righteous. God still expects you to have faith. God still expects you to believe. God still expects you to love your neighbor. God still expects you to put him first. Like the expectations of God don't change for anyone. They're the same. What black folks have done is black folks have said we get a pass because of slavery or because of perceived racism. But God has said you don't get a pass. In fact, you get the same judgment as a child that was born in the house rich with 2 parents. I hold you all both in the same regard. God, no respecter of person. So what I expect from the rich child, I expect from the poor child. What I expect from the poor child, I expect from the rich child. You know. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm sorry it's so short tonight, but I got to get to bed. I wanted to come on tonight because I said I would. I wanted to keep my word. If we want God to keep his word, if we want God's word to not return void, then we have to keep our word. What gives our word power? Not just that our tongue, life and death is in the power of the tongue, but it's also the power in you speaking words or things you're going to do and you following through with them. What makes your words powerful is that your actions line up with your words. That's what gives your words power. So if we want God to keep his word, we're supposed to keep our word. Anyway, I love you all. Thank y'all so much. I will see y'all probably maybe Friday, Saturday. But I thank y'all and y'all love y'all. I want y'all to have a good night.